friends. Welcome back to another episode of Medium Unlimited, where we explore different mediums like design, photography, and video, all around the Adobe ecosystem. So today we're going to be exploring a couple of Adobe programs. We're going to explore one, we're going to do Lightroom, and then we're going to step into Adobe Express. So if you haven't jumped into any of these before, especially Adobe Express is web-based. So you can open up your browser and start looking at it right now. It's free. It's an attempt from Adobe to democratize design. And I think they've done a fairly good job. So folks, my name is Sin Lagos. Let me introduce myself in case we haven't met each other, okay? My name is Sin Lagos. I am an all-around creative. Some folks call me Jane of all trades, but it's all been self-taught. Everything has been taught based on all my resources online. So I thought it would be amazing to return the favor since I've learned all of my trades here on the World Wide Web. So my focus is mainly photography. I have a bachelor's in graphic design that always seeps into and influences all of my creations. And I have taught myself video editing. So I will be teaching you and demystifying any of these workflows here. Gosh, these lights are so hot. I'm going to be demystifying any of my workflows, everything I learn along the way. I do this because for me, I feel like I learn with you too. So I learn a tool or two, and things are constantly changing, especially in our industry. So let's get to know each other here. Jump on the chat. Let's jump on the chat and start exploring our photos for today. Some really cool scenes we've got going on here on Adobe Lightroom. A recent photo shoot I did in Austin, Texas. And I promise you, this wasn't even planned. In some way, somehow, the creative gods blessed me with twins across my journey of just finding street photos. And there were these I think they own this business right behind them. Let me switch this scene so you can see. And they were kind enough to post for me. So I thought this is a great place for us to get started and explore some of the different ways I do my editing process in Adobe Lightroom. And I see Rod here from New Zealand. I almost said Switzerland. Do you get that a lot? I'm sure you do. Let's see here. There you go. All right. So these photos are the photos we'll be editing today. There's a variety. You can see me here taking the shot. I got really lucky this day because they not only were so happy to pose for me, but this is their car. Look at this phenomenal vehicle. Gorgeous, right? I was like, did I just hit the jackpot or what? This is super awesome. And I thought the color palette is down. It's exactly down my alley of like my favorite color palette to edit. This is going to be so much fun to edit and post editing. So here I am in Adobe Lightroom, and I want to explore a couple of versions. I definitely don't want to get stuck to one just because we like to experiment here. I think that's always going to be a common denominator in any of our streams. Let's push to experiment. That's really what I hold myself to. That's the standard I hold myself to. So let's see here. All right. As you're joining in on make sure to say hello on the chat. I'm looking at the Behance chat, at the YouTube chat. I'll open up Facebook. My Facebook buddies over here. All right. Looking good so far. So this is a scene that I really like because in the way that I post them, I was trying to create a level of, I don't know, a composition that felt symmetrical but also dynamic. So you can see here, either side is fairly even, and they're fairly even in the center. There's not a lot of, uh, I would say, pushing the composition too far off. We have a center subject and we have symmetry. No asymmetry here. So I want to really enhance that, go even further. So right away, I'm going to start by cropping. In the cropping dialog box, we have a few cropping overlays. I'm pretty sure Shift 8 will help you go through all of them. Let's see, 8, Command 8. Gosh, I don't remember, but explore these. These are so much fun. I often use this one for anything that is symmetrical, so the diagonal. I know you're familiar with the rule of thirds. As you can tell, I'm almost to a T on that rule of thirds, if you see it right here. So if that cross point is not in a place of interest, you're not being intentional enough with your cropping. So you want to bring this in and try to find a place where ideally the crossing points is making a connection with your subjects. So in this case, I want the eyes, but I don't want to lose so much of my environment. So I have to be careful here, and that's where the rule of thirds might not work. So I started to work with other overlays. In this case, I've got the diagonal overlay. And the rule is about the same, okay? We want to have our cross points at in some area that we want to guide the eye of the viewer. So we are being intentional with our cropping here. Of course, we want to align the horizon, and we can also use the straightening tool right here to do so. I do it manually. To be honest, it's probably the best way. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. So far, symmetry enhanced because I did it in camera, but here in post editing, we boost our photos. That's the goal. We want to take photos from meh, it's all right, to superb. How do we do that? There's just so many variations and so many opportunities to do that. Hey, Jonathan, welcome. All right, so I have this photo and already I've cropped it. I think I'm gonna jump right away into the light section and the parametric curve. So in the parametric curve, we get to make very subtle changes to our highlights and our shadows. And in this case, I didn't have any extra lighting with me. Ideally, I think next time I might carry a flash around because you can see here the lighting around their faces is not ideal, but it is street photography, and I was just blessed with the fact that I got these shots of these portraits of these incredible sisters. I couldn't have been happier. So in this case, things like reflectors, flashes could be great, or begin to guide your model or your subject and ask them to look towards the sun. If they can feel the sun on their face, that's the right shot. So I often say that, or I say, hey, look to the sun. If it's too much, just close your eyes. That shot is just as beautiful. And it's a little bit, I don't know, like contemplating or something like that. And I think I love shots like that. So ideally, that's what I would fix from this. It's really hard to fix it in post, but we can bring up the shadows just a tad bit and the parametric curve to make it better. You can determine the range by toggling the bottom area right here. You can determine the range of that shadow. You see that difference? It's not pulling too much. It's a very subtle change. That's the difference between this regular curve, which also deals with highlights, midtones, and shadows, and the parametric curve. Cool. So as I move along here, I think one of the first edits I'm going to make is going to be technical, right? So we've got cropping and we've got the light source so far. I like that. Let's see if we can make one more technical edit. And this is just the order of operation that I like to work with, but I changed it quite a bit, quite a lot actually. It all kind of depends, but I definitely think this is one of the ones that I go to a lot more than the other ones. If I'm starting to experiment, I try to tell myself, can I flip my order, my ops, my order of operations? Can I try something else? What if I start directly with color instead of tech? In this case, we're going to start with tech and remove some achromatic aberrations, enable lens correction, because if I'm right, I was using a 24-70 on this one and it was a Canon lens. So let's go find that. 24-70, you can also press auto select. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. All right, I'm going to use this so you can see it better. All right, we've got the lens correction enabled, our chromatic aberration enabled. So that's just for color and this kind of, I don't know, blue and red color fringing that happens on your lens. So we don't want those things. Let's get them removed. And right here is where we stop. We're going to go into versions and make a version that is just our text specs. And so far, we've got our original, then we got this one. So let's go into the named section where we can create our version, custom, and let's call it tech specs. So far, the tech specs involve cropping, they involve color chromatic aberration, lens correction, all the goodies, right? So that's what we want so far. Now we can step into the creative side, and I love playing with this as many ways as I can. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Let's go into the light section. Here's one way I would add color. We haven't left the curve tool. The curve tool, if you haven't noticed, is my favorite. And there's a reason for that. There's absolutely so much color happening here. But in every image, there's always a core 3, right? So especially in RGB for the web, right? So we have our core 3. We have red, we have blue, and we have green. So in the curve tool, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to manipulate the strength of that red hue. If we don't want that strength, we pull the lever in the opposite direction, okay? If we want more red, we pull it up. And determining where you're pulling up from is important because that affects the highlights, and in the centers, the midtones, and then the bottom, it's the shadows. So think of the color red existing in those 3 different areas of light. And that's how we're going to operate this. Oftentimes I stick to the center and that's just fine. But if you want to create contrast, most of you are probably familiar with light contrast. But let's talk about color contrast, right? Color contrast can be created with a familiar curve, and it's called the S curve, okay? So what I'm gonna do is raise that highlight. We've got a highlight here. We've got our whites up here, okay? So we're raising our highlights. Now let's lower our midtones. And this is our blacks. This is our pure blacks, areas that don't have a whole lot. Now we want to do this fairly subtly because it looks really crazy at first. But trust me, it's going to look a lot better. All right, let's do the same thing for the green channel. Now, this is how we're working in Adobe Lightroom at all times. We are layering, we are building the edit. We're not going to make an edit immediately. We're building subtle changes that end up becoming this beautiful scene, right? So let's do that curve again on each channel. And you can see here the level of color contrast that we just created, right? So if we go back to versions and we get back to text specs, right? So we have a new version, and this is just on color contrast. So if you want that to be a lot less, you can bring it down, but that already creates a color palette, a color hue. It might not be befitting for our scene because we're trying to compensate for the shadows on their face in this particular scene. It's a beautiful pose, but it's not working for me. If I want to add a little bit more warmth, I can do that here. And that is just one version of creating color contrast. Now, that color contrast, I can apply to any of my scenes and it will then apply immediately. Copy, paste. But that emotes a different vibe. We're going for emotion here. We're always going for emotion when it comes to the color palette. So although I like it, I don't think it's it. I'm going to create a version called color contrast in case I want to come back to it, in case this might work for me at the end. Okay, so as we move along, I have so far my original, I have my text spec, and I have my color contrast. So let's move back to one step. So we're gonna go back to text spec. So we're not starting from scratch. We have our text specs already included in this scene. And what I want to do is create a new version of the color hues. And that's going to be very helpful because now we get to experiment in different ways of adding color and manipulating the creative side of editing while still being able to go back to several versions. And that's really how we want to play with this photo. All right, so let's go into, we worked with the curves, let's go into color. Now we have the color panel. Let's close the light panel. Let's jump into the temperature modes. This is a different way to approach color and make it a little bit warmer. Let's play with a bit of a pink tint, which often makes a scene look or feel romantic. And that's not just me saying it. That is our conditioning from so many movies. So definitely look to movies, books. Gosh, there's so many ways to adapt a color emotion by looking to movies. Honestly, that's probably my favorite way. I see some more folks here on the chat. Danilo from Brazil, and I have Aziz from Lagos, Nigeria. That's awesome. I love that you're from Lagos, Nigeria. I get that so many times. They're like, is your last name Lagos from Nigeria? I was like, nope, but I love that. So welcome in. Thank you for joining the chat. We are exploring Adobe Lightroom and experimenting with several color workflows using the versions feature in Adobe Lightroom. Then we're going to jump into Adobe Express and explore how we can use the templates in Adobe Express to share our final photos. So stick around, join the chat, say hello. And if you're on the YouTube chat, come on over to Behance, or if you feel a little lonely over there, because YouTube is still growing. Okay, so definitely jump on over to Behance to join the rest of the folks. All right, so as we continue here, this scene already looks phenomenal, right? We are working with just the color mixer here, and look at the before. Check that out. I mean, that to me looks super awesome. I think I have to save this as a version. And so far, all I did really was play with the temperature, the tint, the vibrance, and a slight saturation right there. Try to stay away from saturation. I like to pull the vibrance more than I do the saturation. So a lot of people get confused with this. So the vibrance is focusing on the light, right? So the light that exists in each hue. The saturation is focusing on how much hue is in the image. So if it's red, how pungent is that red? Whereas the vibrance is how dark or how light is that red. That's the difference. So I like working with the vibrance a lot more. You're welcome to use saturation, but it can get ugly fairly quickly. So I would say subtle is the key. And that is just via the color. Okay, let's save that version. Let's call it color panel edit. Okay, so now we've got the color panel edit. We've got our color contrast here, which is probably not gonna work because for this scene, maybe not, but it is a nice color contrast. Let's get back to text specs. So we're starting at like 15% of the way, and we're just playing with the color. All right, so we did the color panel here up above, but we also have another option. We've got the color mixer. The color mixer is so much fun, and really what makes this fun is this tiny little tool right here. It's called the target adjustment tool. So the target adjustment tool is fun here, and it's also fun on Adobe Lightroom on the iPad, on my phone, especially because I get to play with my hand and toggle through the scene. So I'll demonstrate how this works. Essentially, what we're gonna work on is targeting different color palettes. There's so much color here, there's so much to play with. We're going to leave the reds as our last option because reds often exist in our skin, right? So in this case, they have a lot of pink, maybe a little bit of olive color. So anything green might also be targeted here. So we want to take care of the skin as much as possible. So let's play with the color, but be aware of our subject. So let's go here into, let's say, blue. Blue is a good example because it's unlikely it's going to be on our skin unless it's actually being, I don't know, it's maybe the light source you're using. Okay, so we've got here, you can see the changes that happen. Now, look at the change in the sky and on the car. They're about the same hue. So in this case, we've got, let's pull this up right here. All right, so I'm going to grab your attention here to this little panel. So this is essentially like a contextual bar, right? We've got a bar that gives us options based on the tool that we're using. And we are using the target adjustment tool, which comes with a hue option, a saturation option, and a luminance option. So what you saw there was the luminance. The luminance is just the lighting. So in that blue that we're targeting, we're able to see how the light goes up and goes down. Let's close this up so you can see it better. I love using this for one reason and one reason only. My favorite reason to use this for. Secret number one right here. if I ever lose detail, like the clouds, areas on my images that I want to still have in my final scene, I will go looking for luminance, the target adjustment tool and the luminance, because that's going to help me find, and you can see it here if we zoom in. See if I can zoom in here. Yeah. Okay, so that's gonna help me find the detail that's hidden. This image is a raw file. We want to use it to our favor. So this raw file has in it so much information that we can still work with. So let's work with it, right? So here it is before. You can see that the clouds are not as pronounced, but here it is afterwards. Look at that, so much better. And even more so, like the detail here on the car looks a little bit more grungy. There's detail there. This is why I love post editing, because you're missing out if you're shooting raw and not doing post editing. If you have a digicam, right? If you have a film, I understand. That's the process, is a different journey. Okay, but in the digital camera, we have so many opportunities in the post editing process. So let's jump into the other two options here. We've got hue and we've got saturation. Let's go into the saturation. We're working our way backwards. So saturation, like I said before, is how much of that hue is in there. It's like, imagine you're spilling paint. You're on that first coat, right? And maybe not spilling, but you're on that first coat. On that second coat, it looks darker. On that third coat, it looks even darker. It's kind of like that. So desaturating, of course, helps remove that color. And you can see some of that blue spills over to them as well. You can see on their skin. So we want to take care of the skin. We can't do that. We got to be a little bit careful. I think that's good for me. Let's work on the hue. The hue is super fun because we all love that beautiful teal cinematic blue. And so I'm going to not shy away from that reference and target that sky and change it into this really pungent teal. Maybe we go back here to saturation and reduce that saturation. I think that their outfits are giving me permission, and their store, by the way. If you live in Austin, go visit their store. It's a thrift store. It's called The Hideout. Super cool. I meet the coolest people here in Austin. They just have so much character and I love their outfits. So I'm leaning into that to influence the color palette that I use for this scene. Remember that, right? So think about your first impressions. I often do this. I think about my first impressions of the moment in order to come back and say, was it warm? Was it solemn? How should I approach this edit, this color edit? You can toggle and play with the dialogues as much as you want, with the levers as much as you want. But when you're thinking conceptually, when you're thinking, what am I trying to emote? Emotion is probably the best way to move forward in your editing process. That's gonna be a very big difference in your workflow. Think of the emotion. Think of your emotion, your first impressions, and your subject matter. What emotion do they give off? So I definitely feel like I can lean into something more playful in this scene. So that's why I'm leaning into that teal. Okay, so we're doing good on time here so far. And my chat is growing. I love seeing everyone here. We've got MD Millen. Cool name. MD Millen. Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to let us know where you're joining from. I already have some cool folks from New Zealand, Brazil, Nigeria. That's awesome. I'm here joining you from Austin, Texas in the United States. The internet, man. The internet's super cool. All right. So I definitely want to reduce that saturation. I know I can be playful, but I don't want it to feel too far off. So I love the target adjustment tool. So awesome. Now, a cool thing about this little panel is that it also gives us access to the curves that we just used, right? So we get to continue to play here, but in this case, we're directly affecting the image by touching the scene. So instead of working on it here, we're working on it directly from the image. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, where do I press? Why am I pressing here versus there? There's a reason. So we are looking to change the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows. So if I go in here into this shadows section of my scene, it will target, no, this is more like a midtone, right? It will target the midtone areas of my scene. And I want to warm that up a little bit. Cool, that works. If I target the shadow areas right here and I change that, I can start adding color into my scene. So instead of shadows being completely black, I can add a little bit of hue, a little bit of nostalgic film-like color palette into our shadows. And you know, that's probably going to help us with the shadows on their faces, because so far they were black shadows, but now we have a little bit of warmth to them. And that's a good trick to just compensate for situations in which we don't have the most flattering light on somebody's face. Something which I'm working on. I definitely nailed it in a few of these other ones, but you're looking at the entire camera roll. All right, so this is what we've got so far. Let's see, from before to this. So much more, I don't know, desaturated, kind of calm. I might want to bring in more color here, and a standout color. It might be the red. So what we can do here is go back to the target adjustment tool. So as you can see, the curves has a target adjustment tool too also. All right, so color mixer, there you are. All right, in the color mixer, we've got our target adjustment tool. Let's make sure this is the one selected. This little wheel, it's not the wheel of death. It's not that wheel we never like. It's a better wheel. We have the color wheel here. So we have hue selected, and I want to select red. Just watch how that changes. Let's saturate this red a little bit. Let's add some luminance to bring back detail. So you can see there, without luminance, you don't see the detail as well, right? There's so many areas here that really benefit from adding a little bit of luminance. Especially if you're going to print, I highly recommend using luminance as a way to discover more detail within the metadata of your raw file. Okay, so I like this so far. Like, you know, as an artist, you always have to say to yourself, is it over? When is it done? A project is never done. Okay, I think I'm done with this version of my edit. I think I'm ready to save a new one. All right, so this one is the target adjustment edit. And gosh, I feel like this one's one of my favorites, and I can now mix and match. Let's go into our curves and start adding that contrast back using light contrast. So now it feels more digital. If you remove that contrast, it doesn't feel as digital. It's kind of up to you at that point, right? What does her pin say? Be peculiar. Yeah, we got to be peculiar with our edit, I think. I think that's the ask of the day. All right, so far so good. I like this contrast. It's looking swell, and we've used the light, we've used color, we've used curves so far, and I'm really liking how this looks. So I think I'm going to be moving forward with this color palette, and we're going to save a preset so you can learn how to create your own filters and apply them to multiple images. So let me show you how we can do that. All right, so up here, yes, up here, we've got this little plus sign in our preset dialog. And in here, we're going to go into this dialog box that shows us all of the different properties that we've changed so far. Okay. So that's looking good so far. Let's name it something interesting. Let's name it Be Peculiar. Peculiar. Perfect. Okay, so all my settings are there, and we're going to save it into my folder, which I named Sin Logos. You're able to make different groups and create subfolders for different filters. I recommend creating folders for filters for your phone, filters for your digital camera, filters for your film camera if you want to correct your film camera, maybe the lighting. The lighting would be a very big thing I might change in a film shot. So, all right, everything has been added. So it says here, be peculiar. Do you want to go see it where it is? That kind of went away already, but that's okay. We can go into our folder, so Sin Logos, and I've got a variety of filters in here. Ooh, there it goes. Cowboy has to be one of my favorites. Cowboy vibes. All of these filters I created custom, and each and every time I definitely make sure to still do a little bit of editing. And so not every filter is going to be perfect right off the box. It needs to be played with still at the end of the day. All right, let's find this filter. Where are you, my filter? I lost you. What do we call it? Be Peculiar. Okay, there it is. Be Peculiar. It's so pretty, actually. I love this one. Okay, so it says, how much amount do I want? Do I want less? Do I want more? I think I definitely want it at 100. I think that's looking good. So now we've created a filter. Perfect. So we have a Be Peculiar filter. Now when we step into another scene, something like this, let's take a look at some of these. Definitely, we're looking for good expressions. Eyes open. And let's add Be Peculiar. Boom. Done. Look at that. Subtle and complete. Now I can still revisit the scene. I might have to revisit it because this is vertical. And I don't know if you notice, but you can see out here, there's that warping or that vignetting that comes from my lens. So that's the reason why we use the geometric, the text spec, the Optex text spec, lens vignetting and distortion, correcting that. But it doesn't always do the best job. So sometimes we have to do it manually. Do you see that? This is the lens vignetting, and it does improve it subtly. But at the end, if you need to crop just a tad bit in here to make it clean, we can do that. You can see here the diagonal grid is perfect for this symmetric composition. I love it. Vintage hideout. So I'm going to star this 5 stars because I'm loving this scene. That I'm looking for a vertical, I'm looking for a horizontal, I'm looking for the gold star, like the best one, the one that really deserves the 5 golden stars. So I'm looking for that whenever I'm looking through my camera roll. This one's pretty. She doesn't look right, but she looks really good. So this is where photocompositing might come into play, because these scenes are very closely together. Today we're not here for Photoshop, but now I'm starting to think I might have to combine those two. So I'll star these at 3 because they're like a sea level right now until I make that edit. Let's add that filter there. And by the way, I'm just copying and pasting at this point. It's really that simple. Copy and paste. Where are my other ones? Let's see. I've got a few more. So these are my folders. I'm more organized on Lightroom Classic than I am in Lightroom, mostly because because it's cloud-based. I often use it on the go. So it often means, you know, I'm uploading stuff from my phone, I'm uploading digital stuff and editing on my phone. So things get a little bit wild. But let's go into, let's see. I want to make sure I have all of them. All right, let me see if I can find it here. Here you are. Awesome. All right, let's work with these. All right, so this is another scene right here that I wanted to work with today as we move along. So this has been a series, Portrait with Friends. It's a lot of fun. I've been exploring portraiture a lot here in Austin, and I want to explore more of the editing process with every portrait I take. So here's a series. It happens every Wednesday, and I'm editing a different portrait. This one is the one that's coming up next. We did this one on the last stream, which we will be using in our Adobe Express workflow today. And we also have this one. So I'm going to show you how I edit this image, and then we'll move along to Adobe Express. In the meantime, go check out my website, and there you will always find the schedule for the next stream. All right, so let's continue editing here on this scene. I definitely want to bring that cool color that we just created. So let's go back here and find Be Peculiar. Look at that. Look at that color on this scene. This scene is a little bit better because I was able to find the light source. So you can see that her face is lit in a way that is even. In fact, it's even better than even. It has nice shadow drop-offs below her chin, which is good for separation. But we do have a few problems back here. We have a person back here. This light leak. It's so cool. Look at this light right here. Chef's kiss. Love that. So before I add the filter, let's undo that filter. We're going to bring that image. Let's see. We've got some of the clip shots we also shot last week. Let's see how. Let's edit this scene in Photoshop really quickly to remove this obstruction. Oh, there's the death wheel. Don't like it. It's gone. Yes. Okay. No worries, because it'll work. It will have to. Okay, Premiere. Okay, no. Photoshop. Here you are, opening on my second panel. Let's close this for now so we can take a look at Photoshop. Okay, so we're in Photoshop. The reason why we want to come here is because Photoshop and Adobe Lightroom work together in so good, so fine that it is just a common workflow for me to come into Photoshop, edit some things out using the power of AI, and then go back to Adobe Lightroom and complete my shot. Babe, can you turn on the AC? Thank you. Okay. So as we continue here, I want to remove this one right here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is select this. Hopefully it doesn't become a smudge. Let's hope the power gods of AI can help us here. So we've got our contextual bar, we've got generative fill. I didn't have the AC on, y'all, and I have so many lights on me. Okay, so in here, I do want to ask it to remove because there are a lot of complex subjects back here, and I want to influence this selection by asking it to remove very clearly. Hopefully it doesn't create another car. Hopefully it doesn't create an extra hand, because those elements are there. I want to be specific instead. If they weren't there and if it was a simple background, I might just hit generate. So Collins is asking, what editing software am I using? I'm using Adobe Lightroom, Adobe Photoshop, and if we have some time, we're gonna jump into Adobe Express. So Adobe Photoshop, it's a quick edit on removing things we do not want, especially using Adobe Firefly, because it gives us various options and it is able to substitute pixels. Okay, so when you're substituting pixels, you want those pixels to be fairly good. Have you ever tried to do that and you just get a smudge? It doesn't look great. I don't like it. So there's a lot of things here that I might want to remove, to be honest. Let's go here. I like this one though. I think this one has the little hand. There's another person back here, but they're not as noticeable, I feel like. So yes, I'm removing this hand too. This is a weird hand. I just noticed it. Okay, so the cool thing about selecting for removing elements using AI is that you don't have to be too precise, but you do have to add context. So you can see there's about like a few centimeters there just from between the hand that I actually want to remove and sections that I don't want to remove. I don't want to remove her dress, for example, here, like her shirt. I don't want that to go away, but I'm including it there so that it's context. That's it. That's the only rule. Other than that, we don't have to make a very precious selection. This will work just fine. And hopefully we get 3 variations that are superb. We are running Adobe Firefly 3 on Photoshop beta. So that's important for me to tell you. I'm not using Photoshop. I'm using Photoshop beta. And Photoshop beta is going to have its bugs because it's a testing ground, right? But it also has its benefits because it gives you insight into new tools before they're actually released to the general app, right? So the general access to everyone. So here we go. All right, that light is a little weird. That is good to me. Awesome. So we've got another success story right there. Should we go crazy and remove this person too? Should we? It's one of those moments where, who's gonna know? No one's gonna know. I love those reels. All right, so generative fill, and we hit generate. And then we pray to the AI gods. Just kidding, we don't. Because it's gonna work, right? Adobe Firefly 3, you got this. Yes, it worked. Awesome. And we have 3 variations, which is honestly one of my favorite things because I am using my AI credits here. Now, something to note, now that I use AI to edit this photo, this means that this photo now has collected information in the metadata that lets us know that some level of AI ingredient was introduced into the scene. So what that means is that it's always and forever going to have that like a tattoo. It's always going to be attached to the image. This is an effort from Adobe to create transparency so us creators can, mitigate between AI or photos taken completely in the traditional way or photos taken in a traditional way and still introducing some AI elements. We want that transparency. That's going to help our community. And so I want you to know that because I'm navigating this AI introduction into my workflow as well. It has helped boost my process. It has boosted my speed. So I'm happy to do things like this because you saw it crazy good. And honestly, Model 3 is definitely much better. I was nervous there for a little bit, but no need to be nervous, I think. Okay, so we're doing good here. We have our metadata. We have our transparency. We're going to hit OK on that TIFF, which still has all that information. So we're not flattening our image into a JPEG. We don't want that. We want that at the very end, but we don't want that now. Okay. So press save and close. Once you close it, we're going to go into Adobe Lightroom. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better that the AC is on. Oh, so funny. There's always something. Okay. So as we move along here, let's see how we're doing on our chats. Awesome. And by the way, I dropped in a few helpful links in there for y'all to check out. I love the word y'all. I adopted it once I moved to Austin. So why don't we use it everywhere? I'm confused. Okay, so I dropped in a link for my YouTube channel where you can check out the upcoming streams, the upcoming schedules for the series, exploring design, photography, and video. So we're gonna step into video eventually. So enjoy these streams on photography because I will be joining the dark side, which is the video editing dark side. Why did I just call it the dark side? I don't know. I feel like I edit a lot at night. So definitely subscribe on YouTube. I'm growing my YouTube channel this year, folks. I'm taking a leap of faith and I'm doing it. And so far, thank you to everyone who's been supporting me. I've seen those numbers rise, so it makes me feel like it's possible. So thank you so much for that. Okay, check out the links on the Behance chat. Okay, so as we move along here, I'm loving this scene so far. Let's see if it gets updated. Let's go. Here you are. All right, so there's our update. Okay, so you saw how it was before and this is after. Let's add our preset now so we can jump into Adobe Express. And this is an actual way that I would go about it. I would edit one photo, and if the remaining photos are familiar light condition, I'm going to place that filter onto all of the other scenes. So let's just do a quick peruse through my library here. Some of these don't work because they're for phones, but look at this. So beautiful. Some of them not good. This is desert. I definitely shot that filter for my phone photos, so not it. But these up here, I'm gonna cover them. I'm gonna group them into separate sections. Here are some of mine. Next time I come here, I'm going to organize more and more this space. Okay, Be Peculiar is our filter today. And like I said, you want to manage how much of it you're introducing to your scene. So it's not perfect right off the bat. Gosh, I'm terrible with idioms, but I'm trying. All right, so we want to make sure that we always edit just a little bit to make it tailored to the image that you have in front of you. So oftentimes for me, that means making sure that the light is perfect for this scene. So I think we need to add a little bit more contrast there. Definitely the saturation on that teal is far too much. So I'm gonna grab the target adjustment tool like we did earlier, grab that hue saturation and reduce that saturation so it's not as abrupt. The hue doesn't have to be so majorly teal. Look at this. We just changed it to purple, green. So many opportunities here. And let's bring down that luminance so we have more detail. That looks better for me. That majorly overexposure up here was worth it because she's perfectly exposed. So, you know, you get some, you give some, right? So definitely here, I was compensating for her area right here. She's more in the mid-tone area. Okay, a quick crop to remove that vignetting and to make sure that our diagonal lines or cross points are in a good point of interest. In this case, I think it's touching her eyes. Let's go to the rule of thirds here. That's all right. Definitely the diagonal feels good for me. I think I'm gonna do this as 16 by 9 because we don't want that sky, I don't think. Now it looks like a movie. Beautiful. Love it. That was fast, simple, and now we can begin to edit some of these photos over on Adobe Express. So I'm going to show you how I would go about exporting them. So under here, we have several export options. We have JPEGs, like I said. This is once you're ready, you're final and ready to export, because this is going to flatten that image. So no more, I wouldn't say no more metadata, but no more information that you can pull from. Okay, so still it's still going to include that content credentials, which is the AI changes we made, right? So it has that ticket, that tattoo. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do small, which is the 20 by 48 pixels. Not really small, actually. Full size would be the entire 4K size. So small is just fine because we're working for the web. We're gonna share it online. So I'm gonna do that for some of these and let it run. Maybe I select a few of them so we can do this. And I'm gonna select some of the ones that we've edited in the past too. Some of these scenes that I love. They look so nice. Let's do those. Let's see if we can do one of these too. This one right here. That's working for me. Let's hit export JPEG. And gosh, I don't remember where I usually put them. I'm gonna put them here. What should I call this folder? Portraits, friends, cool. Oh, fernuds. I totally didn't type that well. All right, so save. So I'm just doing this out of frame because it's just creating folders. All right, so as we wait for that to run, that looks good. I think I have a few more here that I want to export. Yes, I love this photo, which we did in one of our first streams. We have these photos too. I love all of these moments, super cool. And we've got some vertical shots, which we definitely want to include because we're going to be catering to the vertical space, the vertical UI of the internet. Okay, so hit export. So here we can also right click and export 5 photos and have the access to the entire menu. So we have small, large, let's do small. Yeah, let's do small. Save export. And you can see up here the progress bar. Yes, I'm reading the chat on Behance and any incoming from Facebook. Oh, hey, Ms. G's in the building. Hey, that's my graphic design director, teacher. At some point, she was my teacher. I know she was my professor too. But overall, my friend on the Facebook chat. Thanks for holding the Facebook front over here. Love that. All right. So as we're waiting for that export, I think it's done. Perfect. Okay. Let's jump over to the web. So we've got the web here. I'm going to go into new.adobeexpress.com. Okay, so you want to type new. That's going to be important because otherwise you're going to go to the old version of Express and it's not going to have any of these cool tools like text to image, generative fill, text to template, text effects. Okay, so that's going to be really valuable in our process right now. So we want the new one. Okay, so let's go into text to template. I don't know if you tried this yet. It's a little bit different from what I'm used to, but in theory, what it does is it generates a template. Okay, that was simple enough, except that it generates a template that includes images, fonts, and they're fairly composed. Now, this isn't looking down the library of Adobe Express templates. It's actually creating a template from scratch. So if I put some attributes or some descriptions like minimal, you can put bold. Bold is kind of opposite of minimal, right? Well, it might include bold fonts. My bold fonts. I want to say photography. Photography poster, photography flyer. Will it know if I say photography Instagram post? Yes, I think that makes sense. So minimal bold font, minimal layout, bold font, photography Instagram post. Why do I speak backwards? I wrote it backwards. All right, with minimal. All right, that works for me. And right here I have, is it posters and Instagram square post? For some reason, Instagram square, but I don't want it to be square. So I'm going to select poster and change the sizing later. So let's hit generate. I can upload an image, which I will. Hello, Why wouldn't I upload an image? Let's start there. Press open. Okay, now hit generate. We're working with a lot of AI tools today, more than I expected. So as we wait for that to run, cool. This is looking good. All right, so you can see here already we have several variations. And you can see variations is also a common theme here. Let's go into this scene so you can see. All right, so we have a few options. This one's really cool. I like this. And because I wrote minimal, it definitely makes it look a little bit more on the side of sans serif fonts, very small fonts. Even that cursive is kind of giving that vibe. So what if we remove minimal and we keep bold? We can say bold layout, bold font, just for fun. Try something else went wrong. Let's try again. Yeah, because I think in some of these, especially when I'm showcasing my photography, it's very possible that I may want something bold at times just to send out for the crowd, from the crowd, especially when it comes to font choices and things like this. Like, look at this one's not good. You still have to have a discerning eye here, okay? You can't just let the AI robot do everything for you, like people think that it works. Okay, it doesn't work that way. We still have to guide it. So I like this one here. This one's really cool. At some point, did I put Instagram post? I didn't mean to do that. Whatever, we can change the size, but I like this one. So we're gonna click it. Now our template is gonna load and we have some font choices. We have a layout. Now in here, I can double click and bring down our scene. Now, I don't know if this is my hero shot, although I love this photo. I love the layout here. We can continue to build up on it. Unleash your creativity, capturing moments, creating memories. It even added copy. Okay. No Lorem Ipsum here. Okay, but I did want it to be a 4x5. So what I want to do is go up here on resize, and under all of these recommended social media, we have so many variations of sizes that I don't have to go Google anymore. I used to often have to Google these and be like, okay, what is the size for TikTok? What is the size for Instagram? Not anymore. I don't want to spend time doing that, you know? Who wants to do that? So we've got Instagram story. We've got Instagram story ad, Instagram reel, Instagram post. I don't know why it's honoring Instagram square post. Here you go, Instagram portrait post. There you go. And click resize. Boom. Did you catch that? That was so fast. All right, so it is now 4x5. If you know your sizes on Instagram, 16x9, 4x5, square. If you're old school, there's nothing wrong with being old school. I was there during the old school days. The very first logo of Instagram, I was there. Where were you? Were you there? It's funny because one day we will all talk about it. The good old days. Okay, so I can already see I'm changing the layout just slightly bit, but the goal here is to never have to start from scratch. Never, not once. Why is that even important? Well, I'll tell you from my perspective why that's valuable. I own my own business. I run my own show on every level, client acquisition, creating the designs, so much, so many levels, right? So many hierarchies. And if I can save time in any area, especially when it comes to promoting my work, I will find the tools to do that. So far, AI tools have been like truly my assistants I should name them something. But they have been my assistants as a solo entrepreneur, as a freelancer, as a woman-owned business. It's just been like amazing. I think that if I'd done this during a time that AI did not exist, I wouldn't complete as many projects as I do. So just think about that, because that has been a very valuable experience for me. So hopefully that can be a shortcut for you, and you can skip a few hurdles and just, dive right into the good stuff. That's the goal anyways, right? So more time for creative editing, not burdening editing. I don't know. I definitely feel like I have more time for creativity. So here I've got my 4x5, and this is acting like a cover page for my Instagram post. So let's open up Instagram here just to take a look at what we're working with. Okay, so here's my Instagram feed. On my posts so far, a lot of my work is catered towards teaching now, because Instagram is really not so good with showcasing your photos. So one of the things I will definitely recommend is that you showcase your photos in special ways in order to get that attention. It's not that it doesn't exist, like the attention doesn't exist for photo showcasing on Instagram. It's that it requires just a tad bit more. And then eventually your audience gets used to it. I use spaces like Instagram, Threads, Behance to showcase my work more often than I do I put my eggs in several baskets, so to speak. More so because there's audiences there that understand photography. So if the audience here is not for that, you might want to shift gears. But I do find that for me and my audience, who has been supporting me from the start of Instagram, they like a little bit of everything. So I'm happy to share my photos as well. In here, I have a recent edit that we did on a stream here on Medium Unlimited, where we explored the eclipse photos. That was really cool. So this is just a carousel, right? Right now on the web version, I can't move these 3 dots, but if you go to the phone version, I've got my phone version here, you should be able to move the 3 dots. So let's check out what that looks like here. I hope you can see this. Hold on. Okay, so here's my Instagram, and these little 3 dots, they help. Take a look at the moon right there. Do you see the moon right here? These 3 dots right there, when you press them, they create a micro animation. So we can use that in our favor to create a sequence on Adobe Express. So we can create a sequence that delivers each information per image, right? So it could be fonts, it could be the moon, it could be the image itself. So there's so many varieties, so many variations that we can work with here. Hey Sarat, welcome on the chat. Greetings from Turkey. So awesome, loving that. Yes, so happy to see more folks here on the chat. Okay, so now you know what I'm gonna attempt you to do. So let's go here on to this one. Here you go. That's the one. Let's close this one. It is web-based, so if you have a slow computer, you might have a slow experience. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, if you have a slow browser. I use Chrome, so currently I use Chrome. I might change that soon. I'm not sure. but it does work fairly well for me. It is compatible with Chrome, Firefox, Safari. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so as we move along here, I think I want to change this color. This is too gray for me. And I do have saved all my brand colors here in Adobe Express. So I can use my gold color, my orange color that I memorize. And I memorize hex codes when I didn't have to. Now I don't have to. Back then I had to. And back then I mean like last year. Things change really rapidly in our industry, okay? So it's important to keep up. There's so many resources, so many different ways to achieve the same thing. You want to be doing it the smart way, I think, right? Unleash your creativity. I think it deserves a better font choice, right? Let's go in here and find something a little bit more funky, right? I think the entire series is fairly funky. So I can play with the cover. One of my favorite things back then was creating stories that had a cover, a body, and an ending. And I still kind of approach everything in that way. You remember story highlights used to be so cool. I might revisit that, but I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. I love creating stories. I think to me, the story is always what makes a difference in the experience of whatever you're showcasing. So try to find that somewhere. Whether it's, oh, look, this is how I edit my photo. Or look, this is the photos from Austin, Texas. It doesn't matter. It matters that you introduce a level of narrative. So let's use maybe this in here. We've got this color. I don't know, the white was kind of nice. Maybe something like this. Don't like it. I like the song. That's what I like. Unleash your creativity. And if you notice, it's in dynamic mode, which means that your text doesn't matter how you move it. Actually, there's a little example here. Doesn't matter how you move it. It's going to remain justified on the right, left, up, and down. When I tell you, as a graphic designer, I would have to stay after work to make these fonts perfect for a flyer. I mean, those of you who worked with me back then, you probably know what I'm talking about. It was such a waste of time and it was so unnecessary, but it was necessary because we wanted to be detail oriented. But these tools help us navigate those needs as a creator, right? Look at that. Look how it remains justified, right? That is awesome to me because I genuinely would have to stay after work to just perfect something. Not anymore. Not anymore. Okay, I love this. Let's add another page because we're gonna do a carousel. How do we do that? We're gonna press that little tab right here. I go really fast eventually. All right, here, that little tab. And we're gonna add a plus sign. That plus sign gives us another artboard. And we're gonna create a few more right here, just so that we can introduce our image. Okay, so we wanna copy some of these elements. Actually, hold on a minute. We can also duplicate that page. So we have the same assets that we used on our cover page. I think I'm gonna work with that. We have the orange background. Okay, that's working perfectly. Let's get back to it. So is this page 1 or page 2? This is page 2, which by the way, you're welcome to label them A, B, C, D, whatever. That nomenclature is also going to translate in your export if you want to remain organized. Okay, so let's change this image to another image from our set. So Let's see what we've got here. I mean, that works for me. Icons, yeah, okay. So let's do another vertical shot. Let's do this one. Okay. So there you go. Ooh, that makes a better cover, I think. I think the color palette here is so much better. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add another one, a white one in this case. And in here, I'm going to add an image. So I'm going to add anything that I want to add or change the properties of. I'm gonna have it here on the left-hand side. So I want to upload an image. Let's do a complete zoomed of that previous image. So that cover image was but a preview, right? So let's do a complete showcase of that image. And we can do a full zoom, or we can do kind of like this. I think I might do that. But the whole point is that as you're experiencing this scene, you get to see the full variation. So something like this. Here you go. And then we've got this. And I think I'm going to change this background to a color on brand that still helps highlight this scene. If you put it in black, by the way, one of the best ways to showcase your work, your photography, because in black, your colors just pop. They look so good. They look so elegant. A little bit of an off black, it's always nice too, if you want to just change it from time to time. I think I'm going to keep it in black. I like this. So I might add a few elements here. Let's look for tape. Yeah, let's look for tape. I love me some tape. I used to have to search for these assets, search the web, go to stock images, make sure, you know, I buy the correct one, I don't get gypped. You know, there's just so many things. Now it's here. It's all being pulled from the Adobe stock library. So I don't have to go and get lost in a different area and potentially lose my productivity. No, we don't have to do that. We can just stay natively in Adobe Express and continue to create. And so in this one here, we had copy. I might want to place that copy here too and change it to white or off-white. And I can do maybe something smaller. What's up, Samuel? Welcome to the chat. Thank you for joining. Let us know where you're joining from. I want to see how many places we've got today. We've got, so far, we've got Turkey, Ukraine. All right. Gosh, your name is really hard, but I'm going to call you Red. Red from Ukraine. We got Samuel. Still don't know where you're from, but we've got Turkey. We've got Nigeria, New Zealand. Sweet. Sweet stuff. Okay. So let's see here. Let's reduce this a little bit. So this is going to be more of a sub-caption, sub-headline. Capturing moments, exploring the streets of Austin, Texas. Texas, man, they just have such special, I don't know, such a special energy. Their unique characteristics. Very down to earth. I love that. That's why I moved here. But you know, there's so many cool places in the United States. I keep discovering more and more. Recently, I went to Nashville. That was awesome. So cool. I'll share some of those photos some other time. I think I'm going to duplicate this here too. Is that crazy? No, that's too much. All right. So I'm going to get back here without getting lost and get back in to this scene. And I think I'm going to change this to full frame. Put it here to the left. He's facing to the right, so I think that's a good opportunity to add text and guide the narrative. And change our layout, most of all. Friends, portraits with friends. And it's flushed. It's just perfect. It's just perfect. Okay, align tool. Definitely my best friend. Okay, so the align tool is always going to be very helpful in these scenarios because we want no distractions. All right. And so we can change this copy later, but now I've got 2 layout variations. So as someone's navigating my scene, they get to see some of these. Now, if we want to make those 3 dots like we did earlier, here's the thing. We want to reveal things little by little. So I'm going to duplicate this page. No, maybe not the cover. Let's duplicate this page. We're going to duplicate it twice. Yes, twice. Okay, so this scene will have everything. This scene will only have this. Okay. So instead of having the image, it'll have this. And what we can do is also introduce an element here. So let's remove this tape. Let's look for a shape, maybe a simple circle right here. Edits from a series. Okay. I feel like I want to write something in here. So I might grab a pre-done composition here to write a little copy to invite the narrative, invite folks to let them know, what is this even about? What is the point of this, right? So we have some options here that we can work with. That's cool. I dig that. I mean, I'm not going to write that much, but I like it. I feel like I'm in InDesign all of a sudden. So this is an opportunity to write a narrative. I can explain here. I got to photograph for the first time in Austin, Texas. Got to do some cool street photography. Bumped into some beautiful people along the way, and that invites the rest of the story. Okay. So this feels like a different scene altogether, but in the final UI of at least Adobe, at least Instagram, we will be able to use those 3 dots. Okay. We'll be able to use those 3 dots to move along and do a stop motion effect. So go from this to this. So this remains the same, but then this photo gets slapped on top. And if you really want to experience it, you just have to go to Instagram once I post it, which will be very soon. Please refrain from adding your own links to the chat. I can't vet them right now, so I can't allow them right now. Okay. If you want to connect, definitely connect online, and we will be working on so many things here that there's always going to be an opportunity to highlight your work. So just stay tuned to my schedule. That's the way to go, okay? All right, so far, let's take a look at what we've got. We've got a story going on. It almost looks like a book, right? That's neat. It's intriguing. It's rocking my world so far. And we haven't spent a whole lot of time, except I'm talking through it, so that makes sense. Okay, so let's add another variation right here. Now let's see if I can... I can add a custom size, the same size, that's fine. I can duplicate it, there you go. So let's do that duplicate, and in here, replace this image with... Oh gosh, what if we remove the background? What would happen? Oh, yes, this is great. Don't know what I want to do there, but with my stop motion, I might want to do something else. So let's go and put this image here. Remove this. Remove this. Bring in Portrait with Friends. And make it its own headline. Portrait with Friends. And then I have to add a shape here because this bottom looks weird. It's not fun, okay? If we just leave things kind of just floating, let's create something. Huh, I could potentially create something else. Let's think here. Thinking hat. Shapes, backgrounds, design assets. Gosh, like here, there's so many things, so many opportunities for a base. If you've joined me on previous live streams, I explored collaging. This is where I learned that in collaging, we want to center our photos to a base. And in here, this can be a variety of things. So we want a base in collaging. This is kind of acting like that, like a collage, right? It's going to be either that element, or we can try any of these. Oh gosh, it could be so many things. Let's replace this element. Replace. Where are you? Replace. Okay, I want to replace this with... maybe something like this. They did say be peculiar, and I think this is getting there. I think the background can change for this one. Should we do gold? Be peculiar. I don't know, I kind of like the black. Okay, keeping it black, and then I'm gonna add another element in here. I love adding frames, but frames can get a little weird. So I want to make sure I add something that makes sense for me. You still have to have a discerning eye, okay? Can't stress that enough. Okay, there's some cool elements here that we can play with. Ooh, now this feels more like their vibe. Portrait with Friends. This is kind of funky. Let's do something like this. Starting to give me Gatsby vibes. I love the green, but I don't think this is the correct element for this. Maybe, ooh, not that. View all the elements. So many cool stuff. We got 3D elements. Oof, that's cool. Weird, but kind of cool. Okay, it's not gonna be that, okay? That is too far off. We want to be peculiar, but we still want to honor our design somehow. I like this. This is cool. It's a bit of a blurred. Looks like I would have created this in in Illustrator. Some of these are cool. So I might do something like this. What? Are we just doing collaging now? Yes, we are. There you go. So this might need to be a little bit more subtle now. Something like this. We want to find balance, whether it's in design, in photo compositing, in photography, right? Like it's just balance. We have to find some degree of balance. Gosh, in life, balance, right? It is always the task of the day. And I think this is working. So we've got some symmetric elements here by introducing these two on the side. We've got a background, we've got a base, and that was so simple. That was not that hard at all. Ooh, I am loving the Behance chat. Thank you for joining in. Don't be shy. Say hello. I will be tuning out soon, so make sure to ask the questions. Any questions you may have around photography, design, promoting your work online. There will be another stream. We will have another stream soon. Go into my website on sinlagos.com. And there you will find the schedule for our next stream, which is this one. Also Portrait with Friends. We will continue to explore editing and how to promote our photos along the way. There's just so many opportunities here to explore photography merge with design skills. I use them every day. I'm a photographer. I'm a graphic designer. Jane of all trades, y'all. So putting those tools to use is one of the reasons why I've been able to run my own show on my business, you know? So I want that for you too. So make sure to tune in for those, and hopefully you get to learn a thing or two. Okay, so far, gosh, this is looking swell. I think I'm gonna add a few more here, just displaying the photos. So this time it will be blanks. Let's see, blank on this one, and just introduce that photo. So we've got some cool horizontal scenes that I might want to bring in. Let's bring in the ones that we've seen so far. Let's bring in these two. So we'll do something like this. I want to highlight them as much as I can, but they are horizontal, so they will lose a little bit of the attention. There's so many ways to go from here. Let's bring back some of that copy and add it in here. Let's use our orange so it connects everything. And maybe we can use some of those elements. These elements are cool. So maybe that one right here. I'm just gonna put them in the background. And we're gonna create some symmetry there. Exploring. Typos. Typos is another thing that would define whether you're a good graphic designer or not. The accidents I've had, y'all. Not terrible accidents, and not on behalf of clients, but definitely I made one in my own. I have a book. Let me show you what this is. So this is my visual language book, and I love it, but it does have an Easter egg in it. It has a typo, and it hurts my heart that I printed it that way, but now I kind of treasure it. I think to myself, you know what? It's a learning lesson, and if you find that Easter egg, if you get a hold of one of these books, and you find the typos, I think it's more than one. I think it's two. That's the Easter egg. That's how I sum it up. But yeah, definitely check your work. Typos kind of bug me out, but at least this time the typo was just It didn't turn into a new word, which is fine. There's so many levels to this. Okay, so as we're finalizing this stream, I want to share with you what we did. We've been together for a little bit more than an hour now. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here live. I want to share with you what we've done so far. We played with Adobe Lightroom, we played with Adobe Photoshop, Gen AI features, and we jumped into Gen AI features in Adobe Express too. There's so many opportunities here to continue to explore how to edit our work and how to explore how to showcase our work. So stay tuned for more streams because I will continue to explore them there. So let's see here. All right, so we started back here in Adobe Lightroom, and we've been working on this series for a little bit. So Portrait with Friends, exploring different portraitures and different styles of editing using versions, okay? We've had some really cool rounds here. I absolutely love exploring portraiture, especially in an ambient like street photography. The lighting conditions are some of my favorites to work with. I just absolutely love playing with ambient light. But I'm stepping up my game and I'm exploring more here in Austin, Texas. I relocated from Miami, Florida, for those of you who have supported me all this while. Thank you so much, because it's been a journey, folks. And I just am trying to get acquainted with the local people here who are absolutely amazing from what I've encountered so far. So we got to do a lot of editing and some cool removals of distractions. We don't want distractions, right? We don't want those things. If you can clean up your photo, you should, right? So this is the second variation. Beautiful color palette, some nice light sources right here. I got lucky on the shot, and I got lucky on everything, really. Running into these amazing people, running into this amazing location on a great, beautiful day. Can't ask for any more. Can't ask for any more. And then we jumped into Adobe Express. Exploring how we can use Gen AI in Adobe Express to create our own templates, to generate templates from scratch, asking Gen AI to create something minimal, something bold, something for Instagram, and have a unique approach to showcasing our photos. There's so much opportunity here to continue to explore this narrative. But the goal here is to have a chance to stand out from the crowd, to tell a story, to navigate a narrative that feels close to you and what your photos are about. We want to get to know you, right? Like online, there's just so much going on that the more we know about your process, I feel like the more we feel like inspired by it. And I think that's the way I feel about other creators. So I encourage you to do the same. Some of this we created in a matter of seconds, cool collages, and a neat display of our horizontal images in Adobe Express. Once you're ready, you're welcome to share this by downloading it, or you can also share it by exporting to the scheduler post right here. And this is going to help you share to social media. Okay. So you can select all of them. You can select just one. In this case, I just had one selected. But what happens here, we're able to share to Facebook. We're able to share to Instagram, to TikTok, whatever you have connected. In here, we're able to add our captions and navigate all of the details that are usually native to each app, right? So if you want to enable, disable Duet, enable Stitch, all of those properties are also available here. Those are new, by the way. There was a time those weren't there. So definitely explore them. I love using this especially to schedule a post so that we can really organize our minds as well as our creative expressions without feeling the burden of expressing ourselves online because everybody's doing it, it seems. No, we don't have to do that. We're humans. We can use tools to help us along the way. And I feel like this scheduler has gotten just better and better to a point where like I get to use it now because it does have so many abilities. So folks, thank you so much for joining me. This has been so much fun. I've been just enjoying every single stream that I've been doing here on Medium Unlimited, and so many more series to come. So many more. I'm so excited to share them with you. So keep up with my schedule on sinlagos.com. Subscribe to YouTube. Help me reach those 1,000 I think I need. Doesn't matter, but the support means a lot to me. It's a journey that I'm navigating as you're navigating your creative journey, and I'm happy that you're here learning alongside with me. Again, my name is Sin Lagos. Thank you, folks, and see you on the other side.
Danger. 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 Danger.